My name is Lars van Wieren. I'm the founder of Start. And what we do, we can really help you to optimize the candidate experience and not only show you how you're doing today, but especially what you should do differently tomorrow to improve the candidate experience. Yeah, a relevant question looking at the world, and we're all reading the news. We've seen this war for talent for years. It looks like it's cooling off a bit. Will it have an impact on the candidate experience, or will it be equally important?
I think more than ever, candidate experience is the one thing that is not going to change. How important candidate experience is. Compensation pressures might change. Scarcity is not going to change. And so candidate experience is going to stay front and center. Every interviewer has to understand the expectation in order to create that candidate experience. And so, we're very upfront and deliberate about telling the candidate, hold us accountable. So we spend a lot of time making sure our interviewers, screeners, are aware that candidates are going to be assessing us on how we practice the values as much as we're assessing candidates.
Yeah, we often say also about our system, it's where opinions become data. And that's also looking at, for instance, or that's why looking at industry benchmarks is so important, because you rejected candidates, well, you rejected them. They're not the happiest persons in the world. So you will see quite a negative score. And some TA teams are having a hard time internally because the leadership teams sees like a -10 and they say we should do better there. But then we can say, hey, looking at your competition, it's still meh, but you're doing pretty okay.
Yeah, one of the great things about your tool is that ability to say, how are we doing against our industry?
Yeah.
And we're very competitive, of course. So on one level, I'm not okay with just being as good as the rest of the industry. But it's a helpful benchmark, and it helps us understand where we need to improve, for sure.
You're committed to being an anti-racist company. Before we dive into that and the initiative you took there, Sophie, can you tell a little bit more about Start's greenhouse integration when it comes to diversity and inclusion?
So candidates upon application can answer the EEO questions or custom demographic questions. But looking at that data alone tells you how diverse your talent pool is, but it doesn't tell you anything about how inclusive your hiring practices are. So with our support, Twilio is now able to segment their candidate experience data based on these candidates' demographics and start uncovering unconscious biases. So that's something that I think we're able to support you with quite well.
Yeah, it's one of the most valuable things that we get from the partnership. I mean, there's a lot we love, but we believe that we want to be representative. And we actually had a quarter there. I think we made north of 250 core R&D hires, and 46% of all the hires we made were women. 14% were Black, and 12% were Latinx. So yeah, it's been fantastic. And I was in the nonprofit world before I got into recruiting. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and then an AmeriCorps volunteer, and then I was in nonprofits. And I have, after leaving that world, had mixed experiences with companies who really, where they walk the walk. A lot of companies will talk the talk, but not every company walks the walk. And Twilio has made this deep commitment to be anti-racist, and so the partnership we have with you has been very impactful.
And which insights were revealed by using our system, by measuring candidate experience?
When we use HackerRank, we often get this feedback that from hiring managers, internal folks at Twilio, that they're worried about it being a biased tool, or that candidates won't enjoy or want to use the tool. But one thing we learned from Start really quickly was candidates actually prefer using HackerRank on average. And it's really important to say on average, because you have to dig into the data and figure out which candidate populations might not. But on average, candidates who took a HackerRank at the pre-screening stage, we scored 13% better than candidates who took a phone screen. It was the kind of thing that allowed us to turn around and talk to those hiring managers who had concerns. Actually, let's show you what candidates are saying. You know, this is not the terrible process that maybe you think it is. And there's a whole host of insights like that we've picked up.
Which initiatives were sparked by the insights you've seen?
So HackerRank on average globally got us a better candidate experience score than phone screens. But it actually turned out that we had one region, in fact, one country that was really remarkably higher than the entire rest of the world. India, if I have any recruiters watching, thank you to the India recruiting team. You all are fabulous. But they've actually realized that if they hop on a phone call for 5 to 10 minutes with a candidate prior to taking the HackerRank test and explain the UX of the tool and kind of demystify it, get the candidates comfortable with it, then not only is the candidate more likely to use the assessment, but the experience they have at that stage was just remarkably better. So, I mean, worlds better than a phone screen. And so having that kind of insight, we were able to take what they're doing in India and start helping other teams adopt that practice globally.